Hello, welcome back to Rejuvenated Women, Impeccable Health for High Performing Women. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Swenson Ridley, and today I wanted to share some deep thoughts that came up for me after having a conversation with one of my business coaches, who is a male, but he had some insight that had me start thinking, and I think this goes across the board when we consider like this category of high performance, which is, I know a lot of us listening to the show, and it's called Rejuvenated Women, Impeccable Health for High Performing Women for a reason. But, the concept of high performance, and I've struggled with this through my life as well. And, his point to this was so many of us base being high performing, like, how do we define this thing, right? What does being a high performer actually mean? And I've never really defined it on the show. I think we just kind of naturally, like, that's been always something I've identified with. And if you're listening to this, maybe you've identified with that as well. And, it could be whatever you consider high performance, right? But I think for a lot of us, we tend to look at, one of those measurements for being high performing is like how much stuff can we fit on our plates. I just finished doing an interview with a woman that is going to be out in a couple weeks, but she was sharing that she was always driven by things that someone could clap for, right? Like she could get an award for. So it was she was a physician, so the research and the serving on this nonprofit and being part of this community thing, and being in the hospital, teaching, all of this different stuff. But and so that looks like high performance to us, but it's also the thing that can lead to burnout. And I went through this too, in school and then as a wife and mom. And like I think it gets a little weird when we don't have as much going on, which is something that I've been dealing with as well. But we have to be willing to make this shift, because that high performance mentality where it's all about how much stuff can I fit on my plate, and how many balls can I juggle, and how high can I throw them, like that's definitely been something that I've been through and thought literally, like, how high can I throw these balls so that I can keep more up and keep more going? Can I coach my kids soccer team and train a team and run a business and see patients and do it well and keep my chart notes really great and be a wife and mom and clean my house? Like, too many balls in the air are what lead us to burnout and really create this idea that I talk about of selfless syndrome, where we're constantly just taking more and more on and giving and giving and giving of ourselves, and eventually we end up crashing and burning and hitting that point of burnout. And there's like a clinical level of burnout, and then there's the kind that everybody talks about, and you could be anywhere in that spectrum and still be having problems. So we have to understand where we really make this shift. And the important one that I have done but hadn't really put a name to until I had this conversation with this coach is, we focus on the stuff and not the results that we're producing. Because for a lot of us, maybe we're performing high, right? We're high performing. We've got all this stuff going on and we feel like fulfilled in some way by that. But we have to look at the quality of what we're doing and what results we're actually producing, like in our lives, in our careers, in those places. Because a lot of times we can be so distracted by all this stuff, and we feel like we don't have time and we can't pick our head up and we can't, make a change, because there's no capacity for anything else. But that's actually the result we're creating, is no capacity for anything else. And it's not really driving us to be what I would consider, the leaders that we're designed to be, or the person, like I'm all about creating change in the world, right? So like we're not really creating any results in that matter. And maybe you're not, making the money you think you should make, or being fulfilled by the career you think you should have, or have a happy home life, when you feel like you are doing all these things to make that happen, and it's just not happening. And so I invite you to just kind of think about this week. This is a lot less of like, here's some health tips, but this is a health tip, because when we don't do this, when we bury our head in the sands and just keep throwing up more and more balls until finally one drops, or we crash and burn, or whatever it is, like something does have to give. And instead, we can still be high performing, but I think we need to narrow our vision and really look into what that actually means and looks like for us. Like, where can we really have the biggest impact in our own lives and the lives around us, and honing in and really being specific about what that is. Like, one of the most powerful business lessons I ever learned was saying no. Like, just be willing to say no, because especially in, fields like for me, it's all where we're service based, where we're serving other people, the chiropractor, massage therapist, like, where you have some sort of level of service you're providing to others, we tend to be empathetic and we really want to just help people. So we always say yes, right? And so we have to be willing to kind of narrow our focus and get really clear on, there's going to be a episode that comes out in a couple of weeks where we'll talk a lot more about this, but like clear on what our passion and our purpose and our vision actually is, like where we really have our strengths and where we should devote our time and energy. And instead of, feeling high performing because we've got all this stuff up in the air, we actually create high performance for ourselves where we're like producing serious results and creating transformational change and doing something to further the conversation and evolution of the world. For me, it's all about women being empowered to do that, and that's why I hope you're part of why you're listening to this show. But we have to be willing to make some changes to tap into that and be able to move forward. So this is going to be short and sweet today, but I hope that makes sense and helps serve you and just helps you pause long enough to think about and really evaluate. Like, this is one of the exercises I do with women in my program is we look at all the stuff on our plate and determine like what actually really needs to be there, or what is like the most fulfilling for us, and what stuff can we let go of or get rid of. Like, one of my favorite clients that I worked with, she was on all these boards and had, she was part of Toastmasters and had all this stuff going on, and she was just exhausted and she was never home and she was go, go, go all the time, and she didn't know how to not be go, go, go all the time. But so much of that stuff would drain her. And so it's about figuring out, you can fully invest yourself in something, and I invite you to stop being go, go, go all the time because it's not really serving you in any way. But, we can invest ourselves in stuff, but with a very specific, clear, like purpose and passion. I almost think of it like, we talk in marketing and in creation of business. This is more like an entrepreneurial thing, but we talk about niching down, like getting really clear on who our favorite person is to work with, and like who they are, and really understanding that. And I would imagine many of you are my favorite person because that's who I talk to. But it's a similar thing with our own lives. Like, we have to niche it down into the things like that really are important and that we value, and do more of that and less of the other stuff, or just do the same amount of that and drop some of the other stuff so that there's room for us to breathe and to be ourselves and to explore and to, tap back into our creativity and all of that. So, with that said, we're going to wrap up for this week. We'll see you again on Thursday, and keep exploring and just, taking this stuff on little bits at a time. Maybe journal on this idea this week, or whatever it is. But something has to shift. Just know that. I'm going to leave you with that thought.